Have you ever had this problem that you want to write a blog post or you want to write a comment and answer a question, but then when you start typing, you realize how long the answer or your blog post is, and it takes ages to write it down? It would be much simpler and easier if you can just speak what you want and someone listen to it and just write it down for you instead of you typing all of it. Especially when ChatGPT or Gemini or GitHub Copilot came along, now you have to describe what you want. Recently, they add a voice button that you can speak and they will transcribe what you're saying and pass it to ChatGPT, which is pretty cool. And I think that's a very good idea. Every website should have that button, but they don't. What I'm saying is, wouldn't it be nice if every single website on internet had this voice button? You can just speak it and it will transcribe it for you and just search it for you. That's exactly what I'm going to build in this video. I'm going to build a Chrome extension that adds a voice button to every single website. You never have to write anything ever again. Let's get into it. First of all, I'm going to create a Vite project with Tailwind CSS. So let's just follow the structure here. I'm going to call it the voice button. All of these files are created for us. Now I'm going to install the Tailwind itself. Next, we need to initialize Tailwind. This command will create two files for us, config.js and post.css config.js. You can see them right here. I'll update this content field to add the index.html that we have right here and anything that we add in the source folder. Inside the source folder, there's an index.css file. I'm going to copy this 3 line and paste it here. Now we should be good to go. If I run the app, you can see that everything is working. Pretty good. I deleted everything else. Now we only have a h1 tag. From now on, we have two options. I can test the extension in the web directly, or I can add the manifest file and install the extension and work with the installed version. Let me show you how to do that. I'm going to create a new file called manifest.json. I'm going to add the name of the project, which is the voice button. Simple description. We add a voice button to all the inputs. I'm not sure about the permission part. We're probably going to need active tab in storage because we're going to record audio. We need audio permission. If I want to run this code as an extension, I need to go to the extension management and check this one on developer mode. We need a built version of our app. So I'm going to build our app. There is this new folder called dist. Because it's not packed, I'm going to use load unpacked option. Okay, pretty cool. And I'm going to use this pin option to pin our extension. Perfect. Now if I click on it, you see this welcome to your project. This is the same thing. So this tab is our development environment, and that extension in the top is our production environment. Now we have those set up. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get access to the current tab that user opened. And we're going to search for any input in the page. And we're going to add a small icon button to that input. Something like this specific button here in the Chrome search. Or you can also see that in Bing or other search engine. So there's an input right here. And there's this button right here. And when user click on it, we're going to start recording that audio. If I want to do that, I need content script in Chrome extension. It gives me access to the page DOM, and I can manipulate DOM and add something to the page. There is one small trick. When this dist file created, I manually copied manifest.json here. If you want to make that automatic, we can do the wet config file and add this crx manifest. So it will automatically copy that to the production. So I need to install crx as well. Now if I run npm run build again, you can see the manifest file includes automatically. I'm gonna add a new section to my manifest file, content script, and this content script has 3 parts: matches, CSS, and JSON. For URL, we can add a specific website. Because we don't have any specific website and we want to support all of them, I'm going to use star. There will be a content.js file. I'm going to create a new folder called project. I'm going to add a main.ts. Add event listener on load, add voice button. First, I'm going to find all inputs that they have the type text. Then for each text input, I'm gonna create an icon button. I'm gonna give it a class called the voice button. I'm gonna make sure that's unique. For now, I'm gonna add this icon, but we need to find an actual icon and add it. For now, that's good. And we simply just add that to the input. So if you have the input, you need to go one step higher and get the parent, and if that exists. So this should be good. For each button, I'm gonna add an event. I'm gonna call it handle click button. For now, I'm just gonna show a console log. One thing that I need to do, I'm not exactly sure how this content TS file will look like in the dist function. I can use the rollup option and create a rollup in the web config. And I'm gonna say for this content TS file, compile it, and then put it in the dist with the ESM format. Now, if I rebuild the project, there we go. You can see this content.js file in the dist folder. So it's automatically create that for us, and you can see the content of it. Makes sense. Now we can bring back the content script part. It should work. There we go. Okay. Gonna refresh that. There is a problem. Turns out I have to use 3 stars. We should even support not HTTPS files because on localhost we don't have HTTPS, and this is the correct pattern for the matches. Any protocol, any website, and any route. I'm gonna use this dev.to website as an example. Let's see if we can detect the input and add the voice button here. So the imp is input with the type text. CSS selector is correct. There is a problem here. How can I make sure it's actually injected to the page? Maybe there is a problem with permission that we added here, active page. All right, so the code is being run. You can see the injected code console log. So we know the whole process is working. Oh, I didn't actually run the function. So this event listener doesn't work, or maybe we shouldn't use it this way. So I'm going to delete that and just call our function directly without any events. So you can see the button here. And when I click on it, you see the log here. We should add some CSS for this class. I'm going to add content CSS, and I'm going to add it to manifest as well. If I want to add CSS, I can't do it in context script. I should use web accessibility source and add this content CSS here. The position gotta be absolute, top 0, button 0, say right 0, background, want it to be transparent. I don't want any pixel. That's not bad. Gonna reload the extension. It's much better. We're gonna work more on that, but it's good for now. And even the click works. And this prevent default, prevent the browser from going anywhere or submitting. Now, what we need to do next, when user click on the button, we're gonna start recording. We're gonna use MediaStream. It's a native API for the browser to record audio. First, we need to initialize it. So I'm gonna create a new function and call it init recorder. So first we're gonna check if we have access to an audio device and if we actually have the data available. Then if that's true, we're gonna enable that audio by saying audio true. If we can get the audio successfully, then we're gonna create a recorder which actually receives the data. And when it receives the data, it gives us multiple callback. One is for when data is coming, when data stopped. So we're gonna use these callbacks. And when we click on the button, we're gonna check for the state of the recorder. If it's still recording, that means we're gonna stop it. Otherwise, we're gonna start it. So we only have one button which trigger the on and off. So we have to check the current state and do the opposite. Next, we're gonna do two things. Step one is when we receive data. So we're gonna receive chunks of data. We gotta put them in an array or something. On data available, push the data to chunks, and on data stop, we gotta attach those chunks together and create a blob. This particular part is for debugging. So when we get all of those chunks, we attach them together and we show them in the page. So we're gonna see if it's actually work. We build first, then we reload the extension. Testing 1, 2, 3. Injected code, starting, stop. And we have these audio files here. I need to do some CSS changes when you click on it. First, let's find a better SVG icon. This one looks good. I'm gonna download it. Recording SVG. I can use it as background. I'm gonna add this icon to our web resources so the extension can access the logo, the icon, sorry. I'm gonna say add an image tag, and for the source, I'm gonna say something like chrome.runtime.getURL and public recording SVG. So I'm adding this icon as an image inside the button. And here we have it. Oh, very good. I'm gonna create another SVG for active mode. I'm gonna create an element, an image element. I'm gonna assign the recording SVG, which is this normal one. And I'm gonna create another element for the active mode. So I have two elements. And here I simply manage the state. When I'm on recording, I show the element that's colorful. And when I'm stopped, I'm not recording, I show this normal image. So I just created two different elements and add and remove it. This adding and removing might not be the best solution, but I think it's fine for now. Okay, now we have the audio data. Next, I'm gonna pass that to a code that can transcribe it to text. And after that, we're gonna add that text to this input. I'm gonna use Modal. They have a nice Python SDK that we can use. We can create a Python function and then use this annotation app.function or different things that they offer. And this specific function will run on the cloud. I'm gonna create a folder called backend, and I'm gonna create a Python. Inside the backend folder, I'm going to create a virtual environment for Python. venv. I'm gonna activate that environment, and I'm gonna install this Modal package. Next command is our setup that will open a tab, and if we are authenticated, it will gives us an API token. And it says token written in this file. We're not worried about copy pasting that. It's inside this folder. Now we actually need their web examples. Here in the examples section, you can see a bunch of pretty useful example they provided. We can create a FastApi server that will receive the file, use the Whisper model to transcribe our audio. So let's go through one of their examples and see how exactly it works. So it's as easy as creating a web function and use this ASGI annotation and just define different endpoint. We're gonna have the same function. We should have an endpoint that just return a JSON. because we only have an endpoint, we should use the serve function. Now we have one running app, and this is our endpoint. Perfect. Only shows us this endpoint that we have. Okay, so now we have our FastApi service, and it's up and running on Modal. Now the next step is to serve our AI model. For serving our AI model, I'm gonna create another file called transcriber. So we should use the CLS. I'm gonna use the same app. So I'm gonna create another file called common. I'm gonna move our app definition into that so I can import it in the app and in the transcriber. We're gonna use the simplest GPU they have, which is A10G, I guess. The cheapest one would be T4. So we're gonna start from there, and if the model doesn't work well, we're gonna upgrade to the next GPU, because I'm not sure exactly how much or how good of a GPU we need. So I'm gonna start with T4, and if it sucked, we go to the next level. The syntax for that would be, we're gonna pass an image to it. I'm gonna use the exact same image they're using in their example, because they're using Whisper and we're gonna use the same thing. So I'm gonna use the same exact image they're using. You can even install packages, as you can see. You can say apt install. It's a common Linux. It's a Linux command, but they're using it as a Python function, which is pretty cool. We use a simple Debian image. We're gonna install Git and ffmpeg. We're also going to need some Python packages. The first one would be the Whisper, and the second one is ffmpeg for Python. And when the model boots up, we need to download the Whisper model. I'm gonna create a function and call it download model. And here for Whisper, we also have different model. We're gonna play with it and see which one have a good trade-off between speed and accuracy. The base EN, meaning the smallest image for English language, we're gonna use that. And if it was bad and not as well as we wanted, we can upgrade to the next model. One pretty good pattern that they're using, they're initializing the Whisper when their web service start running. And it might be weird why we're using imports inside the code. It's because this function will be run on the cloud, and that function needs these imports. That's why we're doing it inside the function or classes. This code won't run on my machine. So let's get back to the front code for a second. If you remember, we created this blob. So we had a bunch of chunk, then we connect them together and becomes a blob. And this blob is like a file, and we're gonna send that to our backend. So here, I say audio bytes, which is going to be the same file. I'm not exactly sure if the Whisper can read bytes directly. We're gonna test that out. If it doesn't, we should create a temporary file and load the audio into it and then pass it to the model. But let's first try this solution. I'm gonna wrap the app again. Oh, so I forgot to initialize our model in the endpoint we have, transcriber. This endpoint will receive a request body. We can read that and pass it to our function if it exists. And if there's any result, we're gonna pass it to the front. Now that it's running the container, I'm gonna get back to our front. So you remember this debugging code that we had that would play the audio for us? We don't need that anymore. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna send that chunks, and when the result comes, I'm just gonna console log it. Let's open another terminal and build our app. So let's see what happens. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. It says method not allowed, but it should be okay. Oh, I wrote get. I should have wrote post. Okay, let's rerun the backend. It's a post endpoint, of course. Testing 1, 2, 3. Now the endpoint is working fine. Okay, we have an error. There's no module named torch. I didn't install the torch. Okay, in the transcriber image, I also going to add the torch library. I'm gonna restart our backend, which again is being served on Modal. There we go. By the way, it's super fast. I'm impressed. Oh, I had to use this dot remote function because it's going to be a different container. So it has to know that it's a function from another container. So I had to call this remote. And also this model inter annotation was necessary to initialize this function. And I had to use this model method to define this as a method that model understand. So this 3 changes that I made. Now you can see the model is actually being run and download. It's installing all the dependencies. Now we also have our log that says model downloaded. Testing 1, 2, 3. It's loading the model. It's running the code. So this bytes IO doesn't work. I have to pass a numpy array. I'm gonna create a function, load the audio here. I'm gonna import ffmpeg temp file. I'm gonna open up a temporary file. I'm gonna write to it. I'm gonna close it. Then I'm gonna use ffmpeg to read and process that file. I already did that in the previous video. I'm gonna link the video up here. I'm just gonna use that code here. I'm not gonna rewrite that. So I just copy it and paste it here. You can check out that video. I go on detail on why we're doing this with ffmpeg. But it's fairly simple. I'm just formatting the file and I create a numpy array with 60 byte, the int 16. I'm gonna flat that array and then convert it to this type. This is a type that Whisper was trained on. So if we convert our audio to that, it would be more accurate. Okay, let's try again. We're testing 1, 2, 3. Oh, I should use the name of the file. I should pass delete false. Make sure it doesn't delete the file outside of this width. Please subscribe and like the video. Okay, so it returns something, but it's not accurate. When it's not accurate, that means there is something wrong with the bitrate. So maybe the audio we're recording is in a wrong bitrate, or maybe this conversion is not working. So when you see that Whisper is working, but it gives you inaccurate transcription, that means there's something wrong with the audio bitrate. So if the file is not in the right format, I can enforce that by adding this piece of code, which basically says convert the file to 60,000 bitrate. That works pretty well with Whisper. Testing 1, 2, 3 gets the file. Data received. Testing 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So it's working. And seems like the base model is pretty good. Now I have to add this text to this input, right? How can I find this input? It's in the same parent area of this button. Let's get back to our TypeScript code. I'm gonna call it selected button. And here, when we click on the stop, I'm gonna assign the icon button. Now I know which button is clicked on the stop. So when I got the result, I can go ahead and go to the parent, then look for an input and set the value to the response that I got from the server. Testing 1, 2, 3. It knows that I clicked on this button it's going to find this input and going to paste the result. Fantastic. And you can see that it's here. Now that the server loaded for once, it would be much faster. So let's test that again. I'm going to search for, and you can see how fast and incredible that works. By the way, it's just the base model and it's working pretty fast. Latest news on React. Fantastic. One more thing that we need to do before finishing this extension, this project. You see the way I added this button here to the input is not the best way, and it's not really inside the box. I need to fix that and also make sure we can add this to other websites as well. So I'm going to test different websites and see if we can successfully add this icon to their input, because it's going to work on every website. For the next video, I'm going to try to add this button to a more practical website like LinkedIn. When you click here and you can write a new post, I would like to add that audio button here as well. So then we can publish a post only with our voice. Also, in Twitter, when you want to write a new tweet here, or for instance, you want to write a comment, we should be able to see this audio button as well. And also in Medium, when you want to write a new post, it would be very helpful if we can add the button here. So in the next video, I'm gonna try to add the button into LinkedIn, Twitter, and Medium, because these inputs are not just regular input HTML tag. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm gonna try to do that in the next video. If you're interested in Whisper and want to learn more about it, I actually have a full playlist going in depth in Whisper, trying to make it even faster and do it in real time. So if you're interested in Whisper and want to see more example and understand how it works, I put the playlist right here so you can click on it. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.